Hello and welcome to another episode of Pragmatic Electric. I'm here beside the beautiful Maroochydore River, Maroochydore in the background, to talk about this car just for a few minutes while I have it on loan. This is a Tesla Model S 100D, and I'm going to compare what it's like to drive this thing compared to my normal daily driver, which is currently in for a service. I'll get it back soon. The S has a wider and flatter looking profile than my Model 3, and this car is finished in metallic silver. Pretty sure these are the 19-inch slipstream rims, and the Model S comes with self-presenting door handles that pop out from the side of the car when you approach it, and you've got the key fob in your pocket. You can disable that if it gets annoying, but honestly it's pretty cool. But in some ways, it's better than the flip-out handle on my Model 3, but then I've also heard mixed reports about the reliability of the self-presenting handles over time. Gotta shift the car. Give me a second. Other things about this car. The boot, really not that exciting, but still. Open her up. Flips up there a little bit. Well, not a heck of a lot to see in there. And a little sub boot full of crud and so on. That's great. Little storage area off to the side here. Little combo adapter, that's where we keep that. Not much else to it. Down we go. It's a boot. What is there to say? Not a lot really. Just pop up the bonnet. The bonnet itself is quite big and heavy compared to the Model 3, and it's got a slightly larger area in it. I'd get the depth, but it probably doesn't matter all that much. As you can see, not a heck of a lot in it. So on the inside of the car, you've got the massive screen, of course, and these two little rolly wheels, up and down. You can press them down. These two will also toggle between different forward and back on the music and so on and so forth. This one up and down here, you can select what it does if you want to, and you can change the menu here as to what you actually see on the binnacle if you really want to. Voice commands and a horn, yeah, of course, well, thrilling stuff. We've got a bunch of lights inside. There's a few more than in the Model 3. There's actually some in the back corner there. This roof also doesn't have a central point in the middle. It's got its further back. So in the Model 3, there's a section in the middle. So this is one bit of glass, and then there's all the way down to the back. Here, on the other hand, you've got that great honking big support strut in the back going across, and that blocks your rear view quite effectively, which is quite annoying, to be honest. Back seat's got a little bit more leg room and so on and so forth. I also do like these actual door handles that are actual door handles, which I think is great, as opposed to a button. And honestly, apart from that, I guess there's this little dodgy sort of storage thing, which I find to be quite odd. So there's this weird thing where you slide these back to reveal some drink holders. And it's really awkward when you're trying to drive and you sort of turn around to grab your drink. It just doesn't feel very natural. Then again, I'm just old and probably inflexible, so I guess there's that. Anyway, it's fine. So one of the other funky little things is this center part here. So you can open this up and put these things in, and they slide into a bunch of ridges along the side here, and you can create a sort of like a, I don't know, drink holder of things. But if you didn't take a standard sort of a cup, it really is quite loose and not all that great. It'd be good for a larger bottle, but then of course, if it's a larger bottle, that won't shut like that. It does with this particular bottle, but not with others. And then the other part of it is this, and it's sort of, you flick it down like that, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you can shove in there as well if you really want to. It's very odd and bizarre, and frankly, I'm not a big fan of it. But anyway, I digress. Need to put some charge in this thing. Let's go to a supercharger. Okay, a V2 supercharger, we've got choices of 2 plugs for this car. This one here, open her up, and it goes right in there like that. That actually combines the DC as well as the AC. It'll negotiate and turn green, and away we go. I might just cancel that though. Now, in the event that you're stuck in a new supercharger that only has this style, CCS2 combo, in order to make it work, you need to put an adapter on it. Adapter like that, which then allows you to plug in like so. And away we go. Compared to the Model 3, this car is a little bit faster, despite the fact that it's older. Being the dual motor certainly helps. It'll do 0 to 100 in 4.5 seconds, which is 1.2 seconds faster than my Model 3. Let's demonstrate. Don't try that at home. And yes, it is 100 on this stretch. It just happens to be a very isolated stretch. Choose your spot, I suppose. In any case, it's got it. One of the things that's interesting about this Model S, and maybe it's something just because I'm an electrical engineer that I can tell the difference, it uses AC induction motors. And AC induction motors generate a very different sound. Well, not very different, but subtly different sound. And I know the difference in that sound. So compared to the permanent magnet DC motors that are in my Model 3. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that sound, it's different. If anything, I find the sound of an AC induction motor under load to be a little bit more guttural, a little bit more kind of raw, a little bit less precise. But in terms of how it feels, well, you push the pedal down, you go, it's quicker, there's no question. Having said that, speed limit is still 100 or 60, 65 mile an hour if you're in America. So in many respects, there's no law against how fast you get to the speed limit, but you know, there's only so many opportunities to do that anyway. And some police might still pull you over for dangerous driving, but let's not find out. So I had some spare time today. I thought it might be a nice idea to go for a drive to Udlow, which is a lovely little township in the foothills of the Sunshine Coast area, a little ways north of where I live in Brisbane, Australia. It's a beautiful day today, a bit warm for August, but that's all very interesting. But how on earth did I get my hands on a 100D? So my Tesla Model 3, my Tesla Model 3 started making a strange noise, whirring noise that got louder at speed. When I took it into the service center, they diagnosed it as being a drive unit issue. So it turns out, of course, that that was not what it was. It was a wheel bearing. I say just a wheel bearing. On the plus side, it means that they had stock of the wheel bearing and didn't have to order in a drive unit. And even at 110,000 Ks, you'd think, well, you know, losing a drive unit at 110,000 Ks, that's pretty bad. But a bearing is still unusual, but a little bit more common, I suppose, than losing a drive unit. Anyway, so they set me up with a Model S thinking they'd have the car for a few weeks. Turns out they need it for a week. So I have to give this car back, and that's okay, but I've had the pleasure of driving it for a week, and I thought it might be interesting to compare and contrast the Model S against my Model 3, but from the perspective of the fact that I'd never driven a Model S before this. I never took it for a test drive. I'd sat in one, but it wasn't moving. So this is from a perspective of, I've now driven my Model 3, which is the 2021 Standard Range Plus Model 3, and I had been doing this since late 2021. So I've been driving that for nearly 3 years. And the differences between the two vehicles are really a little bit more than you might think. So this is a 2017 100D. So dual motor, 2 drives, primary motor and a secondary motor. And it has a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. So this particular vehicle was not cheap when it was available in Australia in 2017. This is a second generation Model S. So they did a bit of a refresh in 2019. They changed the naming and tweaked a few bits and pieces, but it by and large was much the same car, the 2019 model onwards. The big refresh was the so-called Palladium or Plaid refreshes. I think it's better known as the Plaid refresh, and or third generation Model S. So third generation Model S added a whole bunch of things, changed the interior layout and a whole bunch of stuff. Those particular cars were never sold in Australia, and today you still can't buy them in Australia. There's a whole long story, a very sad story as to why that was the case, but maybe that's a topic for another episode. I don't want to get distracted by going into all of the BS behind that decision that was made. In any case, this was the original car that I lusted after in terms of electric cars. I did consider the Nissan Leaf for quite a while, but the range just wasn't there. So the Model S really was the car that I lusted after. Although the 75D, which started at about 130,000 at the time, that's Australian dollars, of course. All these values will be in Australian dollars. Sorry if you're not in Australia, but doesn't matter. the point is that that was a lot of money. This particular model of car, if you were to look at it at the time with the enhanced autopilot, wasn't I think it was still called that at the time, and of course it's got a silver finish on it, so you pay the extra for those bits and pieces. It's around about $176,000. So that is a heck of a lot of money for a car, at least as far as I'm concerned. Certainly I don't go out with the credit card and put one of these on it every day of the week. So no, that wasn't going to cut it for me, and hence why I never bought one. But I did learn a lot about it, and I did, well, fantasize about owning one, but alas, hadn't happened. So when the opportunity came to drive one, I had to take it. Anyway, so here we are in this car, and I thought, what would it be worth, inflation adjusted, for the same time that I bought my Model 3 Standard Range Plus? So this car, adjusted for inflation, would have cost $186,000 in mid-2021, which is when I put money down on my car. By comparison, my Model 3, it costs $64,000, and that's with the white interior and the premium audio and the red paint, which alone cost nearly $3,000. So this car is almost exactly 3 times as much as a Model 3. Simple question, is it 3 times as good? So that's all for part 1 of my Model S review. I'll be back shortly in the next episode, and I'll dive into more of the stats and figures about the car, look at what it's like to drive, and I'll answer the question, would I actually buy one? See you next time. Bye.